Why diasporas of African descent are the poorest diasporas in the world, how to reverse this trend? Part 2. Success Formula 101, B. B is the root word for become. What this means is that in order to be somebody, you first have to become somebody. I know this sentence may still seem confusing, so let's simplify it further with some examples. If you read the articles that preceded this one, you would have read my Odyssey from Africa. As an African in Europe, like most African diasporas, I possessed the victim mentality. I believed that the reason why I was not succeeding was because I was a black African living in Europe. I was totally convinced that Europeans were racist who would never give blacks the chance to succeed on their continent. However, I had my Damascus moment when I lost my biggest business client. When I worked as a security officer, I was assigned to a construction site in Manchester. I was the newest security officer on the site at the time. As a result, I had to take orders from the officers who I met there. On one occasion, an incident occurred on the site. I was not on duty when the incident took place, therefore was not a witness to the incident. When I arrived at work that evening, I was asked by two of the guys to write the report. I said no, I was not on duty when the incident took place. Why should I write the report? What if the case went to court? What was I to tell the court? So I refused. The guys were not pleased at my refusal, but I saw their behavior as callous for expecting me to write a statement on something I had not witnessed. When our line manager from the head office demanded that a report be sent to him the following day, my guys had to level up with me. They did not know how to write. That night as I went on my patrols, I kept thinking to myself, what the hell, I have gone to school, acquired good education, and here I was working under a bunch of illiterates who were unable to write a simple statement. I decided to myself that night that enough was enough. I was going to take drastic action. As an African concern, the first thing that came to my mind was to return to Africa. The following week I put my plans into full swing, collecting all my savings from the bank and purchasing my ticket for Belgium, where I was to buy cars to take to Africa with me. That weekend I traveled to Brussels. While in Brussels I received a call from a Pakistani friend who already owned a business in the UK. He asked me why couldn't I do business in the UK and why should I return to Africa to open a business. There are lots of opportunities in this country, he said. Then he offered to partner with me for us to do the business together. Even though I was not totally convinced by what he told me, I decided to give it a try. I returned to the UK and we started working on our business plan together. At one point during the planning stage I mentioned to him that we were just wasting our time. No British person was going to buy from a black person. To convince me, he took me to a few wealthy areas and villages around Manchester. Even though many of those areas were isolated villages and suburban areas, there were Chinese restaurants and newsagents ran by Asians. I still remember when we went to this completely isolated village in the middle of nowhere, and there was a Turkish restaurant and all the customers in the restaurant at the time were Brits. He said to me, "Look at the people eating in that restaurant, are they not English? Why do you think they will eat Turkish food, but when you open a newsagent they will not come to it because you are black?" The majority of newsagents in this country are ran by Asians. The Brits go to buy from them. Why wouldn't they buy from you? I knew he was right because I had had an experience myself a few years back when I went to see a cardiologist consultant. It was at a hospital in London. The reason I was referred to him was because his wife was my GP. My appointment was for 2 o'clock, however, I ended up seeing him some minutes after 5:30. The reason for this was most of the patients there wanted to see only him. There were 5 cardiologists on duty that day. But when they called the names of many of the people to go and see the other cardiologists, they refused, choosing instead to wait to see my cardiologist. The interesting thing is he was Asian. But many English people that were there on that day trusted him more than they trusted their own English brothers. The lesson for me on that day was, as long as you are excellent at what you do, people will hire you no matter the color of your skin. English people were not willing to trust their lives into the hands of their brothers, but they were willing to trust it to an Asian because he was the best consultant in the hospital at the time. Read part 3 next week. Thank you for watching. Join us at http://www.theprophetexperts.co.uk.